Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Zill Noorain's online Tafseer series. Today we will be discussing the Tafseer of Surah Al Fatiha. Surah Al Fatiha is the first surah of the Quran. It is also called the opening. That's what Surah Al Fatiha means. So as an introduction, it introduces us to the entire Quran. That's why learning its tafsir is so important. If we can understand the detailed description of the surah, it's not just the translation, but rather the detailed description and how we can apply it to our lives and why we recite it in all of our prayers, all comes from learning its tafsir. If we can learn its tafsir, we will be able to, inshallah, appreciate the entire Quran more, because Allah has chosen this surah to be the introduction of the most important message He gave to humanity, which is the Quran. We will start by reciting the surah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين Ameen. We say Ameen at the end of Surah Al Fatiha because we are asking Allah for something. It is a dua at the end. So let's start with the very first thing we recited. Even though it's not part of the surah, whenever we recite the Quran, we start with أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. We ask Allah to protect us from Shaitan. Shaitan might try to come to us when we're reciting Quran and put bad thoughts in our head. He might make us tired. He might make us misunderstand some of the verses. So before we even begin to recite, before we even begin to try to understand the surah and explain the surah, we ask Allah to protect us from Shaitan. A'udhu billah, we ask Allah for protection, minash shaitan rajim, from the harm of the cursed devil or Shaitan. Usually in the beginning of surahs, we always recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. But in Surah Fatiha, because it is the beginning also of the entire Quran, it's not just the beginning of the surah, it's also the beginning of the Quran. So many scholars have stated that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim in this surah is also part of the surah. So it counts as the first ayah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We start in the name of Allah. And what is the first two qualities that we learn about Allah? First of all, we learn Allah. Allah, the one and only one worthy of worship is Allah. He is the God. That is the name of the God, the one and only Allah. That's the first thing we learn. In the name of Allah. And the two qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to know about Him, the first thing in the very first ayah of the Quran is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, the most kind, the most merciful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces Himself to humanity as Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. He introduces the entire Quran with the most kind, the most merciful. So all of the Quran, everything in it, you'll find Allah's mercy in it and Allah's compassion in it. So we must remember that before we even begin to recite. So that brings us to the question, who is Allah? Allah described Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. So who is that? Who is Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who He is, cannot be encompassed in such a small amount of time. But what we can understand, some of the most important things, is that Allah is the Rabb, the Lord of all of us. He owns everything. He is the absolute one. He has no partners. He is only one. We only bow down. We only pray to Allah. Allah is the creator of everyone. He is all powerful. He has all the power. He is all knowing. He knows everything. He is ever present, meaning he's always, always, always there. And he has no father, no son, no children. Allah is alone. It's just Allah. All of us need family and friends. We don't have all the power. We don't have everybody knowing everything, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who knows everything. That's why He is Allah. Remember the two qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces Himself with. He says He is Allah who? Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. He is the most merciful and the most kind. And we see these qualities of Allah the most in our lives. Can you think of examples where you have seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and kindness in your life? How about the family that He gives us? Our parents and how they take care of us when we were really little and we don't even remember. How they took care of us when we were so helpless, and even now they continue to take care of us. Or the food that we get. Our food is just not just good enough to give us energy, but it looks good, it tastes good. And we have favorite foods, and we have the blessing of being able to choose our foods. That is part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy as well. We have clothes, we have education, we're able to read, we have a house, we have safety, all of this. When we are blessed with it, it is all part of Allah's mercy, because we didn't do anything to deserve it. We didn't do anything to earn it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just gifted this to us. It's from His extreme mercy, even though sometimes we're not even completely grateful for all the food and everything, all the blessings that we have. We forget sometimes to thank Allah, but He still continues to give all that to us. Even people who don't believe in Him still get food, still get the blessings, still have happy moments. And that is because of Allah's mercy. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still gives to us, even though we may not deserve it, even though we are not appreciative. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, and that is the true mercy, that He gives to us and is kind to us despite everything that we do. But there is a difference between Rahman and Rahim. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has special mercy. He has special mercy for those who believe in Him. So the Muslims and the people who believe in Allah and actually worship Allah get a part of His special mercy. And what is that special mercy? Is that He guides them, He helps them, He protects them in hardship, and the biggest mercy of all is that He made them Muslim. That is the special mercy for those who believe in Him. So that is the difference between Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Rahman, Allah is mercy to everybody, but His special kindness comes to those who actually believe in Him and do righteous deeds. The second ayah of Surah Al Fatiha. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds. When we say Alhamdulillah, we say all praise, all thanks, all glory, everything, all of the good praise belongs only to Allah, because He is the only one who deserves all of that praise. And who is He? He is Rabbil Alameen, Lord of the worlds. What does it mean, Lord of the worlds? It means not just the Lord of humans, but also the Lord of all the animals and the sea and the sky and the land. Not just on this planet, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Lord of even all the angels and all the jinns and all the things that we see and all the things that we can't see, of the entire universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala owns all of it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of all of that. Rabb also means He takes care of every single thing, no matter how big and how small. Everything is under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's control and care. That is what it means with Rabbil Alameen. So we say Alhamdulillah because Allah is the one who deserves all the praise and all the thanks. The third ayah of Surah Fatiha. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. These qualities of Allah come up. This is the second time that they came up. And both together again. Rahman ar-Rahim, most kind, most merciful. It means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really wants us to know this about Him. We shouldn't be so terrified of talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking for Allah's help, because Allah is saying, talk to me, come to me, read the Quran, because I am the most merciful and the most kind. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to know about Him. He wants us to know that He is taking care of us. He is the Rabb, but He is the one who takes care with so much mercy. Even though we might feel like we don't deserve it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still there for us, no matter what. The fourth ayah, Maliki yawmiddin. He is the Lord of the Day of Judgment. Malik. He's the King of the Day of Judgment. He is the one who owns that day. And what is that Day of Judgment? Let's find out. So Malik, King. He owns that day. He will be the ultimate judge. Right? When you think of a king, it's the one who everybody comes to, everybody gathers in front. When you have a king's courtyard, everybody comes in front of the king. And the king judges between them, says who's right, who's wrong, who goes where, who he punishes, and he gives the... Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the king of all kings. Right? He is the king of that day. That will be the ultimate day when everybody will come in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and will have to answer for what they did. But remember, don't be terrified, because what did Allah tell us right before? He is Ar-Rahman, He is Ar-Rahim. So if we have hope in Allah's mercy, then insha'Allah, Allah will show us His special mercy on that day when we need it. On that day when we have to answer for everything that we did. Yes, He is the King. Yes, He owns everything. Yes, He has the ability to judge between us right and wrong and give us exactly what we deserve. But we hope for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, because that is the type of King and Rabb Allah is. Rahman ar-Rahim. And what is that Day of Judgment? On the Day of Judgment, His rule, His justice, and His wisdom will be clear to everyone. So many things happen on this earth that we don't understand. We don't always understand the reasons behind why some people have some stuff and other people don't, right? We don't understand sometimes how bad people can get away with what they do and good people don't get rewarded for what they do. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day will have complete justice. Everybody will get what they deserve, and if Allah shows mercy, they get more, way more than what they deserve. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, inshallah, show mercy to those who ask for it, inshallah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day to shower us with His mercy. The Maliki yawmiddin, deen literally means the day that right and wrong will be separated, that all the ways, everything that everybody followed, Allah will judge between them and see who did right, who did wrong. And we're going to have to answer for that, and it'll be clear the paths of right and wrong on that day. Ayah number 5. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. This is where the surah splits in half. So in the first part of this ayah, we say, it is you we worship. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. So over here, we are still talking to Allah. The beginning, we were saying all praises to Allah. He is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He is Malik. He is the King of Kings. He is the owner of the Day of Judgment. And now we say it is you we worship. So this is all part of the praise of Allah. It all teaches us who Allah is and what we should recognize about Him and what we should know about Him. And then it turns to us. So now that we know who Allah is, what do? إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. We ask Him for help. We ask Allah. We make dua to Allah, because it's only Him who can actually answer those du'as. At the end of the day, when we make dua, it is only Allah who can answer that. It is only Allah who can give us what we ask for. And we have to remember His mercy. And we have to remember that He is the Rabb. He takes care of everybody whenever we make dua. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually teaching us in Surah Al Fatiha how to make dua. We start with the beautiful names of Allah. We start with praising Allah and recognizing who Allah is and how much powerless we are. We don't have any power. Allah is all the power. We don't know much at all. We are very limited in our knowledge, but Allah knows all the knowledge. We don't know the full wisdom and justice, but Allah is the most wise and the most just. So we recognize that, and then we ask for help, and we say we need help. وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Allah, you are the only one we can ask for help because you are the only one who has the power, the ultimate power to help us. And this is the happiness of a believer. Our happiness is in knowing that we can ask Allah. Our happiness is in worshiping Allah and asking for His help. Because if you turn to anything other than Allah, they will not be able to help you. They might be able to provide you a very small temporary solution, but that is still from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody can help you like Allah can. Why? Because everything is in Allah's power. Allah controls everything. And some people, when you ask them for help, they might look at what you did. Why do you deserve this help? Why should I give this to you? Why should I help you? If I give to you, then it'll take something away from me. But when we ask Allah for help, it doesn't affect Allah in any way. Meaning He can give and give and give and give to us, and it will not decrease in Allah in any single way. And Allah will not always look at, oh, but you did this, you did this, you did this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's why He's merciful. He gives to us and He answers our dua despite everything that we have done. And that is why we get happy that we can ask Allah. At the end of the day, we can, whenever we want something, whenever we need help, we can turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He will answer. He promises this in the Quran. And do you see how in this introduction, it comes up so many times later in the Quran that we should ask Allah for help and how He's the only one that can help us, and all the other things that people turn to for help they actually can't. All of that is summarized in Surah Fatiha. And we get that just with this little ayah. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. We worship you and only you we ask for help. And what kind of help are we asking for? Let's find out in the next ayah. Ayah number 6. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. We ask Allah to guide us to the straight path. And we ask Allah this every single salah, every time we pray Surah Fatiha, we ask Allah to guide us. We always are in constant need of guidance. Again, this goes back to how Allah knows everything. Allah knows the future that we don't know. Allah knows what is right from wrong, and we might not always be so clear about that. So that's why we need Allah's guidance to protect us from harm, to guide us to good, especially when we don't know anything. So we ask Allah, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. Guide us to that straight path. Now, what is that straight path? How do we know what is the straight path? What is the right path? And we ask, in more detail, we ask Allah. In the next ayah, we find out what that is. The straight path is صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. The straight path is the path of those upon whom you have bestowed a favor. The straight path is the path upon those who asked Allah for help, and Allah gave them a favor and answered their help, like all of the prophets. When Yunus a.s. was stuck in the whale, he called upon Allah, asked for His help, and he was rescued from the whale. When Musa a.s. was trying to escape Fir'aun, he asked Allah to guide him, and the path was made across the sea. When Prophet Muhammad ﷺ asked for help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah gave him a way, and we have now so many Muslims. These are the people who Allah bestowed a favor upon. All of the prophets from before, all of the righteous people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered their dua. They asked Allah for help, they worshipped Allah, and Allah guided them to the straight path, and Allah helped them in their missions, and Allah helped them in what they wanted to do. That is the straight path. But what is not the straight path? The straight path is not of those people who earned Allah's anger, or of those people who were misguided or just went astray. So the people who earned Allah's anger are those people who knew what was right and still did what was wrong. So they know what is right, but they were too proud and too arrogant that they did not want to correct their ways and listen to what was right. They did not want to listen to Allah's message. So we don't want to be part of those people who know what is right and still do what is wrong, because that earns Allah's anger. Or of those people who are misguided, who just don't know what is right and don't know the truth and don't know what is good, but they don't even make an effort to try. They don't really care. They're just happy in their ways of not knowing. So both of those people we want to be protected from. The people who earned Allah's favor were those people who knew who Allah was, who followed that path. How? By asking Allah for help and worshipping only Allah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered their du'as. The people who earned Allah's anger, they knew what was right, but they still did what was wrong. So we don't want to be from those people, or from the people who went astray. Those are the people who just didn't bother learning what was right. And these can be any people. Even amongst the Muslims, we have people who worship Allah and do it properly. So who earned Allah's favor? Who do we have? Who do we know that earned Allah's favor? These were, again, who are these people? These were the prophets, the people who were truthful, the people who were martyrs, people who died or gave their lives and sacrificed everything for the path of Allah, or the people who were righteous, who did good deeds. In the quick review, who were the people who invoked Allah's anger? These were the people who intentionally abandoned the truth. So they knew what was right and still did what was wrong. And who are the astray? Who was وَلَضَّالِّينَ? They are the people who abandoned the truth out of ignorance, who didn't even bother learning. They just didn't know. Maybe they had good intentions. Maybe what they wanted to do was good in their minds, but they just didn't know how, and they didn't bother to learn. So they didn't follow the truth because they didn't know, and they didn't try to make an effort to learn. And once we have recited all of Surah Fatiha, now that we have a little bit more of an understanding of Surah Fatiha, after that we say, what do we say at the end? We say Ameen. Why do we say Ameen at the end of Surah Fatiha? If you said it's because it's a dua, that's absolutely correct. We asked Allah for something. We asked Allah to guide us to the straight path. This, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us in Surah Fatiha how to make dua. We praise Allah first, and then we ask for help. And what kind of help? We ask Allah for guidance. And we ask Allah the way that the prophets guided. The way the prophets were guided. And in the Quran, we'll get lots of stories of these good people. We'll get stories of the people who Allah gave His favor upon. We'll get stories of the prophets and the truthful and the righteous. And we'll also get stories of the people who didn't do that. We'll get stories of the ignorant. We'll get stories of people who got Allah's anger. And now can you see how this surah is really an introduction to the entire Quran? In the Quran, we're going to learn about Allah. We're going to learn about who Allah is. We're going to learn about the Day of Judgment, which we don't know. No human can know that. We can only get that information from Allah. That's what we're going to learn about in the Quran. We're going to learn about the Day of Judgment. What happens to the good people? What happens to those people who weren't good? And then we're going to learn about the prophets. We're going to learn about what du'as to make. We're going to learn how to worship Allah. We're going to learn about the prophets. We're going to learn about the good people. And we're also going to learn about the type of people who didn't listen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's warnings. So this entire surah, we ask Allah for guidance. We ask Allah to help us. And that's why we say Ameen. We ask Allah to respond to that. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us an understanding of the Quran. And whenever we recite Surah Fatiha, may Allah allow us to remember the importance of the surah and implement its importance into our lives, inshallah. Jazakallahu khair for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Noorain's channel. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.